This isn't just a story about a couple of metal buildings. It's really about a hidden battle, one that was fought not with guns and tanks, but with blueprints and hammers. It's a fantastic tale of two completely different industrial philosophies that went head-to-head during World War II. And the winner? Well, the winner would end up changing how we build, well, pretty much everything, even today.
So let's just dive right in, because you might be looking at this and thinking, a hut? A secret weapon? Really? And I get it, but trust me, the answer is way more surprising than you think. We're about to see how this humble, half-cylinder shelter became an absolute game-changer in logistics, basically allowing America to project its industrial might across thousands of miles of ocean. Okay, just try to imagine the pressure for a second. It's March 1941. The world is on fire, and the U.S. Navy comes to you and says, we need thousands of portable buildings like yesterday. They had to be lightweight enough to ship everywhere, strong enough to survive a hurricane, and, here's the real kicker, they had to be so simple that totally untrained soldiers could build them with just basic hand tools. The clock was ticking, and the challenge seemed, well, impossible.
Now, the Americans weren't starting from a blank page. Luckily for them, they had a benchmark to aim for and to beat, a design that was already a bit of a legend in its own right, the British Nissen Hut.
I mean, this thing was born in the mud and chaos of the First World War. A Canadian British mining engineer, Major Nissen, came up with this brilliant semicircular design that could be mass-produced. It was a proven workhorse, They built over 100,000 of them, sheltering soldiers everywhere, from the trenches of France to the farthest flung outposts of the British Empire. It was the OG of portable shelters.
So how did you actually build one? Well, this is where it gets interesting. The design is elegant for sure, but man, it was demanding. You needed a skilled crew, people who knew what they were doing. You had to bolt these heavy ribs just so, attach these wooden beams with these finicky hook bolts, and then carefully tension a bunch of wires. If you got any of that wrong, the whole building could just fail. It wasn't construction, it was a craft.
And this slide really nails the Nissen's paradox. It was an amazing design for its time, strong, aerodynamic, battle-tested. But its Achilles heel, its big weakness, was that it completely depended on human skill. Sure, under perfect conditions, a well-drilled team could maybe throw one up in 4 hours. But in the rain and the mud and the chaos of an actual war zone, with guys who'd never built one before, that time could easily double or worse. And that was the problem the Americans had to solve.
All right, so let's get to the American solution, the Quonset Hut. And I want to be clear, this wasn't just a slightly better Nissen. No, this was a complete rethinking of the entire problem, and it was driven by a uniquely American industrial philosophy.
Okay, this right here, this simple-looking groove is the absolute hero of our story. It's the secret sauce. The engineers at the George A. Fuller Company had a stroke of genius. They created steel ribs with this wavy channel pressed right into them. What did that mean? It meant a soldier didn't need to mess around with wrenches and bolts. They could just pick up a hammer and drive a nail straight into the steel rib. And because of that groove, the steel would grip the nail even tighter than wood. It was absolutely brilliant.
Now, just look at this process. Compare it to the Nissen. It's night and day. All the really complicated stuff was done back at the factory. So on-site, a crew of untrained GIs could just bolt the arch sections together on the ground, stand them up, and then just start nailing. That's it. No precise tensioning, no skilled hook bolting. They took the complexity out of the field and baked it right into the design itself.
So, did it actually work? Well, we got a brutal real-world test pretty early on. A base in Iceland got slammed by a hurricane-force gale. The storm literally ripped the metal coverings clean off the British Nissen Huts. It crumpled airplanes like they were paper. And the Quonset Huts? They were basically untouched. This wasn't just a theory anymore. It was a proven, tougher, more resilient design.
And this really brings us to the core of the whole story. This was never just about two different styles of hut. It was about two completely different ways of thinking, about engineering, about manufacturing, and about labor itself, playing out in real time on the world stage.
This one sentence, this says it all. The British, with their long, proud tradition of craftsmanship, designed a product that assumed you'd have skilled builders to put it together. The Americans, obsessed with mass production and pure industrial scale, designed a product that was so simple an untrained person literally could not build it wrong. It was foolproof by design.
Now, this table might throw you for a loop at first. You see, the Quonset hut takes a bigger crew and more man-hours on paper. You're thinking, wait, that's less efficient. But look closer. Look at the reality time. That 4-hour time for the Nissen? That was a best-case scenario fantasy. The Quonset's 8 to 10-hour time, that was a reliable, repeatable fact no matter who was building it. And in a war of logistics, predictability is everything. It beats wishful thinking every single time.
And that was the secret weapon. The U.S. was mobilizing millions of civilians, farmers, mechanics, students. They didn't have time to train an army of specialist carpenters and steelworkers. They needed a system that any soldier, with a hammer and a set of instructions, could build flawlessly, whether they were in the frozen Aleutian Islands or the humid jungles of the Pacific.
And in the end, the numbers tell the final story. The scoreboard doesn't lie. In just 4 short years, America pumped out over 160,000 Quonset huts. They completely dwarfed the production of a design that had a 25-year head start. This wasn't just about building a better hut. It was about having a better system for winning a global war.
But the story doesn't end in 1945, not even close. What's truly amazing is how this wartime innovation took on a whole new life after the war and continues to shape the world you and I live in right now.
So what do you do with over 160,000 surplus metal huts? Turns out you use them to build the post-war world. They were sold off cheap, and they helped solve a massive housing crisis. Veterans returning home bought them, universities used them for dorms. Entire suburban communities, like Roger Young Village in LA, sprang up inside these curved steel walls. They became this icon of post-war ingenuity.
But out of all the strange second lives these huts had, this one might be the coolest. A surplus Quonset hut was bought and turned into a recording studio in Nashville. And because of its unique curved walls, it had this amazing acoustic quality that helped create the legendary Nashville sound. Think about it. Iconic songs like Patsy Cline's Crazy and Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire were recorded inside a repurposed military building. How wild is that?
But the greatest legacy isn't the physical hut. It's the philosophy. This revolutionary idea of a complexity shift, the idea of moving all the hard work and precision from the person building it to the factory that makes it. That is the bedrock of our modern world. It's in every piece of IKEA furniture you've ever built, every snap-together gadget, every modular home. We see its DNA everywhere.
So that's the real takeaway here. The next time you assemble a piece of flat-pack furniture with just a little Allen key and a wordless diagram, I want you to think back to that serpentine nailing groove. You are the direct beneficiary of a wartime philosophy. A philosophy that decided the easiest way to equip an army of soldiers was to create a system so brilliant it now empowers an army of consumers every single day.